Vic murdered Martin McRae and all of his wife's other side pieces. In Deep Water, Ana de Armas plays Melinda, a free-spirited, promiscuous nympho, let's keep it real, who jumps from relationship to enrage her emotionless husband, Vic, played by Ben Affleck. Vic is a retired technocrat who created the microchip technology that makes drones work like heat missiles. And that's a metaphor for his compulsory behavior in this film. He hovers over his wife and her exploits like a drone. Melinda and Vic have an open marriage, and the film explores whether or not their marriage can sustain and survive all of Melinda's exploits without spiraling into jealousy, toxicity, and obsession. That's the thesis of this story. One of the plot devices used to symbolize Vic's obsession is snails. Vic harvests a colony of snails. Snails are significant to him because they represent outer strength, a shell of protection. Vic appears strong on the outside to his friends and neighbors. To friends, he's seemingly unbothered that Melinda is flaunting all of her lovers in public, unashamed. But Vic is simmering with jealousy. He even tells a neighbor that a snail will climb a 12-foot wall for their mate. That's telling. Vic presents himself as a long-suffering husband and uses victimhood and innocence as a way to circumvent any accusation of Melinda's lover's murders or disappearances. The ending is a parallel of the first sequence. Vic returns home from a bike ride, which he often does after he has murdered someone or has stalked one of her lovers. His wife Melinda glares at him with suspicion as Vic removes his sweaty clothes right there on the front porch. But is that just sweat? Or is Vic returning from murdering one of Melinda's lovers? Her eyes well up. He asks, "What?" Why is she staring at him, he's wondering. She replies, "Nothing," and retreats upstairs to her quarters of the house. He goes into his room, which is downstairs, and we realize that they live in separate quarters and that they are distant lovers. There are times in this movie when they retract from each other's advances. This could be a game of cat and mouse between them. She knows, Melinda knows, that Vic will always be there for her, but he is unsure. He doesn't know when she's going to fall madly in love with one of her lovers, so he kills them before it gets that far. To scare off one of Melinda's lovers earlier in the first act, Vic admits to killing one of her ex-lovers who happens to have disappeared. His name is Martin McRae. He's been missing for a while, and Vic tells one of Melinda's lovers that he killed Martin McRae with a hammer, a crime of passion. This rumor spreads all over town, but Vic is protected. He has protected himself like the snails that he cares for. None of his friends or neighbors believes that none of their neighbors and friends believe that Vic is capable of killing anyone, including Martin McRae. So it's brushed off. But his wife believes he's capable of it, and a new neighbor, screenwriter Dawn. Dawn and Melinda suspect Vic of being a murderer. They even pay for a private investigator to follow Vic on his bike rides, but he's too clever for the PI and exposes all of them. Then Vic flirts with Don's wife, Kelly. He needs Kelly on his side, and she falls for it. This also makes Melinda jealous. This is that cat and mouse, give and take, tit for tat that they play. Martin McRae's remains are eventually discovered, and another man is arrested for shooting and killing him. Where were his remains discovered, though? In the same woods where Vic spends a lot of his time. It's the same woods where Vic buried Melinda's other lovers, the Gorge. Okay, Vic doubles down, admitting several times that he in fact killed Martin McRae, and I believe him. He even ambiguously apologizes to Melinda when McRae's body is found. So, Vic killed Martin McRae. Melinda and their daughter, Trixie, plan a picnic at the Gorge. They invite Vic along as a family. This is where Vic buried Melinda's lover, Tony, at the Gorge. So he's got to go. And they spend the afternoon together as a family at the Gorge. While Trixie's playing at the stream, Vic notices Tony's body float near a boulder. He collects Trixie before she notices, and they all leave. Later, Melinda realizes that she left her scarf there. Vic says he'll pick it up tomorrow on his bike ride. Again, the ending is a bookend or a parallel, if you will, of the first sequence. The next morning, Vic rides his bike to the Gorge like he planned. Melinda searches the house for him, though. She's looking for him for some reason, and she ends up in his makeshift greenhouse-like quarters where his snails are habitating. She steps on one of the snails, crushing it. Vic had been protecting these snails the entire film, but on this particular occasion, one of the snails gets out of its habitat. And now it's splattered by the heel of Melinda's foot. That's such a metaphor for their relationship. Melinda finds the wallet of her lover, Tony, covered in snails. It confirms that Vic had something to do with Tony's disappearance. Is Vic responsible for killing all of them? That's the antithesis. It's impossible for this couple. It is impossible for this couple to enjoy an open marriage without spiraling into a jealous rage. Now the expression on her face from the first sequence makes sense. Melinda suspected Vic all along. Vic's at the Gorge, struggling to submerge Tony's corpse back into the water. Screenwriter Don just so happens to be at the Gorge, and he sees Vic prodding at something in the water. Don waves Melinda's scarf. He has it. Now, wait a minute. That's pretty convenient. Why does Don have Melinda's scarf? It's a coincidence he's even there. Did Melinda call him and tell him to go get it? In an earlier scene, she was talking seductively to someone on the phone, and Vic questions her. He asks who she's talking with, and she admitted it was Don. Is Don Melinda's new lover? Must Vic kill Don now? Or are they still in cahoots, trying to find out if Vic is the murderer they believe he is? Or is she still trying to make Vic jealous because of Don's wife, Kelly, the games they play? Don sees Tony's dead hand emerge from the water. His suspicions are confirmed. Vic is a murderer. He's not about to be Vic's next victim, so he flees in his awaiting Subaru wagon. Don's headed straight to the police station, and he's plucking numbers on his phone. But we know from an earlier scene, the scene when Tony gets killed, that there's no cell service out here at the Gorge. Don thinks he's hit jackpot too. He's celebrating. He'll get a book deal and then adapt the screenplay, and they'll both be hits. Vic hops on his mountain bike and cuts through the gorge doing a $1.20. He'll cut Don off. He's familiar with the landscape. He knows this land better than Don. Meanwhile, Melinda's at home packing. She's finally leaving Vic. Daughter Trixie sees Mom's packed suitcase and tosses it in the backyard pool. "We're not leaving," she demands. Trixie wants Mom to suffer. She enjoys aggravating her, as we saw throughout the film. Back at the gorge, Vic's whipping through trees full speed. This mountain bike is more agile than Don's all-wheel drive wagon. Don's sending his wife the "I told you" text, but autocorrect is fumbling his words. The Subaru is swerving and fishtailing on the dirt road. He's simultaneously texting. His phone flops out of his hand and onto the passenger side floorboard. Don reaches for it, shuffling. "Keep your eyes on the road, Don. You're going to crash." Then out of nowhere, Vic propels off of his mountain bike and onto the road. Don swerves to miss him and loses control of his Subaru. His wagon dives off of a cliff and into the gorge, toppling. Now he's dead. Vic's collecting bodies all over this parish. Back at home, Melinda's suitcase submerges into the water just like Don's car. Just like all Vic's other successful murders of Melinda's lovers, he enjoys a peaceful bike ride and the ambiance of this parish. Vic arrives home on his bike. Melinda's sitting there, staring, just as she had in the first sequence. This is the synthesis. This is how they love. This is their love story. Obsession, possession, jealousy, and rage, and murder. This is normal for them, and now it's the new normal. Will Melinda be less overt with her lovers to protect them from being murdered by her husband? Will she protect them from his jealous rage? Will she hide them? "I saw Tony," she brags with a tearful eye as she heads to her quarters of the house, just like that first sequence. She enjoys his jealousy. It's the game they play. As the credits roll, Melinda burns Tony's wallet and contents. This is evidence against her husband, so she burns it. To answer the thesis of this story, can this couple enjoy an open marriage free of jealousy? No, they cannot. Well, if you stuck around this long, I certainly appreciate you. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, peace. Okay.